Boom! We are live, John Bush. Let me ask you, everybody out there in Paleo FX land, first of all, good morning. It's good to see you, everybody. Let me ask everybody out there, what do you know about Kratom? If you were like me a couple of years ago, you knew absolutely nothing. I've learned quite a bit in the last couple of years, and I have found it to be an awesome, awesome substance. And towards that end, we have John Bush of Brave Botanicals. John is the founder of Brave Botanicals, located right here in Austin, Texas, as every cool entrepreneurial endeavor is. John, it's great to have you, brother.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be chatting with you and your audience.
Yeah, man. So let's talk Kratom. What brought you into this wild and woolly world?
Well, I was running an underground bookstore that doubled as a health shop. We mainly sold health products, not so many books. Amazon kind of beat us there. In Austin, Texas, it was called Brave New Books. And one of my friends, this must have been around 4 years ago, said that he started to package and sell Kratom. So we started selling it at the store. And it just kind of wasn't very popular at the shop. I guess a lot of people didn't know we were carrying it. And then when the DEA tried to ban it in 2016, the end of 2016, that's when it really started to explode. And right along this time, I started taking it myself as well for help with like fatigue and for focus and motivation when my brain would start getting foggy. So I've always been into natural health for, I guess, the past 15 years or so. And when I learned about Kratom, when I started taking it, seeing its benefits, and then especially when I started to see how it would change people's lives, people overcoming addiction and quitting pharmaceuticals, for example, it really had a big impact on me. So we leaned heavily into it. And now that's the primary focus of my business.
Right on. Right on. Dude, were you located like around 51st and Lamar or somewhere? Is that where?
It was on Guadalupe and MLK. Near UT campus.
Right on. Okay, I think I know the place now. That's just an aside. That's wild. Okay. Right on. So that's how I came into the Kratom world too, was because of through the addiction world, not myself but others, and finding out that that was and I mean everything from, like you said, from heroin to I mean more minor addictions too, if you could call them minor addictions. To Adderall and all kinds of substances.
Yeah,
it's very, very. I have found very, very useful for that kind of stuff, which is probably why the FDA frowns on it so much. Because I mean, you're putting a dent in big pharma, or potentially putting a dent in big pharma.
Yeah, there's definitely a dent. There's no actual numbers on how much revenue is done with Kratom, but it's estimated like anywhere between 1 to 5 billion, which is a significant chunk of the prescription pain medicine market. That tends to be what a lot of people use it for. There's a few different varieties of Kratom. There's red varieties, green and white. The red varieties tend to be better for chronic pain. They have a little bit more of a sedative effect. People take it to relax, to help with sleep. And then the white varieties tend to be a little bit more stimulating, uplifting, good for focus and motivation. The green are kind of in the middle, although they're more similar to the white, but they help with stress and anxiety. And a lot of people take the red Kratom in order to quit taking opioids. And surprisingly, they find that not only does it feel better and they don't have the loopiness and the negative effects associated with the opioids, but it also helps with the pain. And then you mentioned Adderall. My girlfriend, Rebecca, who you and Michelle know, she actually was using Adderall for quite some time, started taking it in college. And it was troublesome for her, not just because the Adderall would kind of shift her personality, but she would find herself drinking at the end of the day because she was so wired up. I mean, it's literally meth. And so that kind of created some unintended problems there. And whenever we started dating, I encouraged her to try Kratom instead. And through the Kratom, she was able to quit the Adderall entirely and now hasn't drank in quite some time as well. So it's really a game changer, not just like for some people like me, it helps. It helps me to focus with stress and anxiety, helps me to get through a huge mountain of to-do lists. But for other people, it really gives them control of their lives back. And I think that's why it's so special.
Right. And can you talk about where Kratom comes from, what plant it is and where it's grown?
Yeah, it's made from the powderized leaves of the Kratom evergreen tree, which happens to be a member of the coffee family, although Kratom doesn't have any caffeine. And it's primarily grown in Southeast Asia. We import ours from Indonesia. It's actually been used for hundreds of years in Southeast Asia as like a folk remedy. Again, the different varieties, people would use the lighter color varieties for stimulation when they're day laborers working out in the field, when they're starting to get tired. And then, interestingly enough, people would use it to help get off of opium back in the day in Southeast Asia. And then it was imported somewhere in the 80s and 90s into the States, and it really started exploding in popularity in the 2000s as this whole opioid epidemic started to take off. This is what it looks like right here. It's just a fine powder, and you can mix it with water, a smoothie, or take it in capsule form. It tastes kind of like bitter green tea. I've actually developed a taste for it, and it's like, oh, this is a fine wine. I like the earthy undertones.
Now, I found, unless you found a way to make it more water soluble, I found that the old school varieties are pretty hard to get down if you mix them just in water in a spoon, which was what I would do. But I mean, I wouldn't take the extra 2 seconds to go in the blender and blend it up. But have you found a way to have it be more water soluble, I guess, or is a blender still the best way to mix it?
Well, ours is super finely powdered. And, it's not like a synthetic thing. So occasionally there's variation, but for the most part, it's really powderized. So it's so fine that it mixes well. Mm-hmm. But if people want to mix it up with their morning smoothie, or when I did a booth at y'all's last conference here in Austin, I was surprised to find how many athletes and how many martial artists were using it as a pre-workout and a post-workout. So like I was saying earlier, the green and white varieties, they give you kind of a pep motivation, especially if you're like, how we all have those feelings where we don't want to work out today, or we don't want to tackle the cleaning the house or whatever. You drink some and it kind of gives you a boost, a pep. And then on the other side of a hard workout or a training session, if you're doing fighting, the red varieties will help to ease the soreness, or if you got clocked upside the head, it'll help to ease the pain. So there's a lot of overlap there for some of y'all's audience. I
right. Feel. Yeah, I have definitely used it for training purposes, just like what you say, the light white variety and especially in the evenings, I like the red variety. Maybe not immediately after working out, because personally I still have work that I need to do during the day, so I wait till in the evening for the red variety. But very, very cool. So ordering wise, you and I had a discussion before we went live about how, again, because the government isn't real fond of natural remedies, they make you jump through every hurdle possible when trying to order these types of substances. So tell us a little bit about the ordering process and the inability to use debit or credit cards, but the workaround that you found.
Yeah, so it's definitely been a difficult industry to be in, and sometimes I feel as an entrepreneur like I'm running with a parachute on my back, because the government really frowns upon it. As you pointed out earlier, it takes away business from the pharmaceutical companies. Like I've had YouTube videos taken down. I've had my Facebook ad account taken down because I kept trying to get around and promote it. Yep. So it's censored in some ways, and then early on, I went through like 7 different credit card and debit card processing solutions. And finally, the banks just cracked down so hard. It's actually the Department of Justice has this program called Operation Choke Point, which they originally said was to stop money laundering. But really, what they used it for is to pressure the banks and the credit card companies not to do business with like firearms stores, adult toy stores, CBD and cannabis, Kratom. And these are some of my favorite industries here.
Right.
But we did find a workaround, and that's called eCheck. We also can take cryptocurrency for those of you that are into crypto. And if you message me, I can do Venmo as well, but that's not listed on the website. So it's eCheck. You simply share a checking account and routing number, and it does an electronic check withdrawal. And we use a company called Green Money. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We've never had any issues in the 2.5 to 3 years we've been using them. So a lot of people kind of feel like, oh, eCheck, this is kind of weird, but I can assure folks it's totally safe and secure. And we've set up a special offer for your audience. If they wanted to try an ounce for free, it's just $5 for shipping and handling. They can go to paleo.freeounceofkratom.com, paleo.freeounceofkratom.com, pay $5 shipping and handling, and then we'll ship them an ounce for free. And then they're presented with an opportunity to get our 4 other strains, which are these right here, for 50% off to get the 4 others whenever you add the free ounce to cart. And then you could try the whites, the greens, and the reds and see which one works for you, or maybe a couple of them, or some people take some in the morning, some people take some in the evening. But yeah, it really has a lot of benefits.
Melissa, if you're still around, it's actually paleo.freeounceofkratom.com. I might have texted you PaleoFX. If I did, my bad. It's actually Paleo, P-A-L-E-A-L-E. I should be able to know how to spell my own company name. Paleo.freeounceofkratom.com. Very, very, very cool. And so how is the business? I mean, I know just from talking with people, I know many people who do use Kratom.
Business is going well. So rather than be discouraged about the difficulties I've faced, like having my Facebook ad account shut down, and even getting Facebook bans for promoting Kratom too much. And then finally, when there was like a 3-month period when I had a big decline in sales, when I finally just kind of gave up on trying to find the workarounds for the debit card and credit card, I just kept pushing at it. And I study a lot of entrepreneurial experts and advice givers and gurus. Grant Cardone's my current go-to guy, the 10X movement. So I just kept pushing. And then I learned about Russell Brunson. He does a lot of funnel stuff. That's actually where I learned about the free offer to just give it away for people to try. And then you can build a relationship with them, and they subscribe to the newsletter and so on and so forth. And really just pushed through, and business has done really well. And now with the coronavirus stuff, everyone is paying a little bit more attention to their health, and we're still operational. We're considering ourselves essential. And so, yeah, I think things have been doing well. And I think after all of this takes place, like we have all been into natural health and been conscious of what we're putting in our body and exercise and supplementation. I think more and more people are going to be on that wavelength, because the numbers do show that it's people with pre-existing conditions, many of which those conditions are preventable. Not all of them, but a good lot of them, like obesity, for example, you can turn that around by lifestyle changes and dietary changes. So I'm expecting that the natural health industry as a whole, CBD and Kratom included, is only going to continue to grow. Yeah, you and me both, brother. I have a son who is in the cannabis industry, and it's the hurdles that they have to hop through is, I mean, it's almost impossible to be an entrepreneur in that area unless you come in with some major backing to start with. So kudos to you for that, because I know how difficult it is to run a business in this space when you're up against every obstacle whatsoever, and you have a product that can truly help people. That's not a pharmaceutical. And I know there was discussions, at least here in Texas, and I'm not up on what this looks like nationwide, but it seems like recently in Texas there was a massive protest at the Capitol having to do with the state banning Kratom. Do I have that correct? No, there was a couple of years ago, there was a protest we helped to organize to push back on the federal government's effort. Kratom is illegal in 6 states: Rhode Island, Alabama, Minnesota, or maybe it's Michigan, Vermont, surprisingly, which is more liberal and has cannabis legalization. And there's a couple others. I think it became illegal in these states because lawmakers, trying to do good, they banned synthetic spice, like K2. It's like synthetic marijuana, which is chemically made, and it's bad news bears, especially like in the homeless community. There's like an epidemic of people getting all whacked out on that. But they would see that spice next to Kratom at a gas station or a head shop, and they're like, what's that? We don't know what it is. People are using it to get high, and they would try to ban that as well. But in Texas, there aren't any laws about Kratom. Now, it would appear as though the tide was turning against Kratom, fueled by the FDA. Whenever they tried, it was revealed that it was the FDA that was encouraging the DEA to emergency schedule it, add it to Schedule 1, with heroin and LSD and cannabis of all things. But they failed. And then after that, they did like an end run around and started going to state governments to try to ban it. Well, the American Kratom Association since then has been pushing the passage of the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, which adds some light regulations to Kratom, like it can't be added to any adulterants. All of the Kratom has to be tested, which ours was already tested. And you have to have certain labeling requirements. And so many states are starting to pass that. So I think it's going to start having a trend similar to CBD, where people were like, is it legal? Is it illegal? It's kind of gray. We don't want to mess with it. We don't want to invest in it. But now that this regulation is passing and formally legalizing it and stopping the banning of it, I think Kratom is going to have its day like CBD did, where all of a sudden everybody knows what it is and is using it for its beneficial purposes.
Right, because it is hugely beneficial. Larry, let me know if I've got the gist of this question right, but I think what Larry is asking is can Kratom be used for, let's say, caffeine addiction?
Yeah, a lot of people take it instead of coffee in the morning. Right. It has the same uplifting effects, especially if you take a smaller amount. I just got a really nice email from someone. I was on a podcast, and one of the listeners said that they've been trying to quit alcohol, and they found Kratom, and finally they were able to quit, and now they're struggling to like have a normalcy and just know what life is like without alcohol. But yeah, people can use it instead of caffeine for sure. I have yerba mate in the morning usually, or coffee. Right. And then I take my Kratom usually around 12 or 1. And it's usually when I'm working and pounding away and my brain starts to get a little foggy. Now, previously I would have another caffeine drink around that time, but then I would find myself, it would be difficult for me to go to sleep around 10 or 11 or midnight when I would go to sleep. It'd be more like 1 or 2, and I'm tossing and turning in bed. But now I have a Kratom, and I don't have that same problem falling asleep. So yeah, a lot of people can use it instead of coffee or caffeine. And it's a member of the coffee family, although it has no caffeine.
Right. And do you mix it with anything, or do you just take it straight up?
I just drink it straight with water. Right. People can mix it with orange juice, grapefruit juice, mix it up in your smoothie. You can mix it with water and then like add lemon to kind of make it taste a little better, or honey even. Some people put honey and lemon as a nice little concoction.
Right. And if, let's say, Melissa asked, what about for kids? Say for kids?
Okay, well, that's a touchy subject. Some of the states that regulate it, they say that it's banned for, you can't take it unless you're 18 or younger, right? And so I have like pregnant mothers. Yeah, 18 or older. Yeah. I have pregnant mothers reach out to me and ask, they're pregnant and they take it. And so what I usually caution is like for a young person, because it is an opioid, it interacts with the body's opioid receptors, also serotonin and dopamine receptors, which is why it kind of elevates your mood and helps with stress and anxiety. It's not as intense of an opioid as the pharmaceutical ones, right? So if it's like a pregnant mother or a child and a parent is faced with like, my kid's disruptive in school and they're really hyperactive and we were told by a doctor that we should put them on Ritalin. Mm-hmm. In those cases, and again, I'm not a doctor, this isn't medical advice, but just my personal opinion, I think it would be preferable to have a child try Kratom than taking Adderall or Ritalin, or just the same if there's a pregnant woman and she has chronic back pain or knee pain from a car accident or something, and she's taking opioids or Percocet, Vicodin, Oxycontin, then in those circumstances, it would be beneficial, right? And like any substance, whether it's a drug or a natural plant or coffee, caffeine even, it's important to use Kratom responsibly. So there have been people that have become dependent on Kratom. Oftentimes, however, it's someone that was formerly addicted to pain pills or even formerly addicted to heroin, and then they quit that and now they're addicted to Kratom and they kind of rely on it and depend on it. And while that's not ideal, it is an example of harm reduction, right? So I would say if someone tries Kratom, they like it, and they start including it as something in their daily regimen, then it would be important to take a few days off here and there so your body doesn't develop a tolerance. That's when you can end up in trouble, when like your body gets a tolerance, you've been taking it every day for several months, now you're taking twice as much, 4 times as much, and before you know it, whenever you stop taking it, you might get a little headache, just like when you stop taking caffeine, for example, right?
Right.
So it's important to use it responsibly. I will say that I use Kratom regularly every day for weeks on end. Then I take a few days off here and there. I don't have physical withdrawal symptoms or shakes or feel clammy or anything. I may be like slightly a little bit more irritable just because Kratom just helps me with stress. Like I take it when my kids are wearing me down and I'm starting to lose patience. I'll have some Kratom and I'm like, I got this, let's go play at the park. But yeah, like anything, it's important to use it responsibly and to use your best judgment. Right.
And again, I'm no doctor. I am certainly no scientist, but I can imagine the LD50 for Kratom has got to be astronomically high because it is a natural substance. And I have never heard of anybody ODing or getting into any kind of problems with Kratom. I have heard, like what you said, that some people can become quote unquote addicted to it. But from what I've seen, addiction has more so to do with the personality than it does the substance. We see this in AA all the time, right? You trade alcohol for whatever else.
Yeah.
Maybe, and it, like to your point, harm reduction. Yes. So I've traded one addiction for another that's not nearly as harmful. Good. But that's still an addictive personality. And that's a whole other ball of wax to get into about that. But
yeah.
Generally underlying issues that drive addictive personalities and blah, blah, blah. We could go way off on a tangent on that, but yeah.
We started a recovery support group on Facebook, and I try to put out videos and information for our customers because being in this industry, I have come to be more up close and personal with addiction. And I went down a path where I studied all of that. And there's this guy, Dr. Gabor Mate, for example, he defines addiction as like someone's harming themselves or harming others. And in spite of that harm, they're still using the substance. So I would like to say a lot of people become dependent on Kratom. Some people become physically dependent. But if there isn't that harm element, then I wouldn't call it addicted. Now, there are people that do genuinely become addicted and there is harm and like they need to get that substance. They're spending a bunch of money on it or so on and so forth. But yeah, it is an example of harm reduction. And at the end of the day, if someone is caught in that trap where they were using pain pills, they were using heroin, now they're using Kratom to kind of numb some sort of pain or trauma. Right. The important thing is to do the work. That's the hard part. That's why we, even myself, like Kratom helps me with stress and anxiety when I could like go meditate or go on a jog, right? Mm-hmm. If that's the hard part, to actually do the work to face those inner demons or whatever's leading people to try to numb that pain. And I try to make that a point. Right. Not to wash that over, because a lot of people aren't even aware of like, wow, they can break this cycle by doing the work,
Right. And I think that's one thing that's cool about Kratom or other plant medicines is it allows you to do that, to actually face whatever it is that's underneath that you're trying to. I think Gabor Mate has also said there is no addiction, there is only pain. Right. And the attempt to reduce or numb that pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super, super cool. Yes. Numbing the pain issues. Frank Preeb, how you doing, brother? Garrett, are you the one that said capsulization? I think so. Someone said something about essentially I can't see because it's gone past now, but I'm assuming because it is a powder, it's easy to capsulize if indeed you want to go that route.
Yeah, so we sell it as capsules. We sell 1 ounce worth of capsules. It's a little bit over 60 caps and could last you 2 to 4 weeks. And you can go to paleo.freeounceofkratom.com, or perhaps you guys have shared your affiliate link to go to the general website. But go check it out. We have 5 different varieties: Green Mangda, Red Relaxation, Super Green Dragon, White Lightning, OG Bali, 2 reds, 2 greens, and 1 white. And for each one of those varieties, there's also capsules. But make sure that you guys go through the link. You can go to paleo.freeounceofkratom.com if you want to get the free ounce. Right. And you can click through to the homepage from there and check out our other products and offers. We definitely sell it in capsule form.
Right. I encourage everybody to do that. Give it if you've never tried it before, give it a shot. I guarantee you will like it. It's a substance I've used off and on for the last 2 years, and I really appreciate it. John, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. You guys keep up the good work.
Thanks, man. Did you have anything in closing that you what was the you said you had a Facebook group? Can anybody come into that group?
Yeah, it's called the Brave New You Recovery Support Group. So if you search that in the Facebook bar, it should show up. It's a private group but I think you should be able to at least find the group and request to join there. Brave New You Recovery Support Group. And yeah, it's just a community of people that are sharing and helping one another. We'd love for people to join.
Awesome. One other question I've got here. Let's see. Melissa shared the general link. Thank you, Melissa. Garrett said, so on your website, will it tell you the difference between the different varieties? I'm assuming it will. Yeah.
Yep. If you click on the Kratom menu item, then it'll bring you to our little Kratom offerings, and it has the 5 different varieties. We have a 1 ounce bag, 2 ounce, 4 ounce, and half kilo. The more you buy, the less it is per gram, the cost. Mm-hmm. There's also 1 ounce of capsules. And then there's a short description for each one of the varieties. I can go over it real quick. This is Green Mang Da. It's the most popular. It's also the most potent. And the green tends to be a little bit in the middle of the white, which is more uplifting and energetic, and the red, which is a little more sedative, better for pain. The green's really strong in small amounts. It can be uplifting, energetic, good for stress, motivation. In larger amounts, it can kind of be a little bit more relaxing, good for stress. And then there's also Super Green Dragon. I prefer the Super Green Dragon. This is the only one that I take myself. And again, I take it as an entrepreneur for energy and focus. And I also take it as a dad when my kids are wearing me out. It doesn't have the mild, it still like has a little bit of euphoria, but not as much as this one. And so when I take this one, I feel good for a couple hours and I'm working, but then I'm like, I kind of want to chill. And again, it's different for different people. So these are our 2 green varieties. And then here's the white one. It's called White Lightning. This used to be the one that I would take exclusively. This one's uplifting, energetic. It'll help sharpen your mind if you're feeling overwhelmed. My girlfriend that used the Kratom instead of Adderall, we noticed through a lot of my research with addiction, there would be like a trigger that would trigger her to go to the desk drawer and pull out the Adderall. And it would be when she felt overwhelmed. So she'd like open her email box and be like, oh my God, I have so much work to do today. I better take my Adderall. And so we found that trigger, and we simply, instead of reaching for the Adderall, she would make a Kratom drink. And it was White Lightning that she would use. So when you're like feeling overwhelmed and like, man, my brain's all cloudy, this one really helps to kind of sharpen your focus so you can get things done. And then the 2 red varieties, they're very similar. The red one, the OG Bali might be a little more sedative, although the red relaxation is more popular. These you take before bed, or if you have chronic pain, you take these. People can also help. The Green Mang Da also helps with pain. That's the free ounce one. And then again, when you add the free ounce to cart, you just pay $5 shipping and handling, but you're presented with an opportunity to get the 4 other strains for 50% off. Then you could try all 5, see if 1 or 2 work better for you. Then you could turn around and maybe buy a 4 ounce bag to save some money on that. But make sure that you're always using the Paleo FX affiliate link so these guys can, you can support this movement as well. Absolutely. John, thanks a lot, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you for that question, Garrett. Thank you very much. All right, everybody run to the website. Make sure you get your free ounce of Kratom. You don't want to miss out on that. And I will just note too, if you're looking around for information on Kratom, I would highly suggest you use DuckDuckGo instead of Google, because just saying the big boys are clamping down on Good things. Point. Yeah. Go to DuckDuckGo. And just another shout out to them. Thank you very much, DuckDuckGo. You are my go-to search engine from here on out. John, thanks a lot, brother. Thanks. Peace and freedom. Yeah, man. All right, Paleo FX crowd, we will be back. I don't know if I don't have any other lives today. I think maybe Michelle does. I'm not sure. But we will be back. You know we will. Bringing you the best of folks out there like John Bush and Brave Botanicals. And support these guys. They are out there fighting for you. Support them. All right. Peace out, everybody.